All right, good morning, everyone. Here we are, February 7th. It is now light out. Hallelujah. We turned the corner. Welcome to the Conservation Commission. We've got the Winooski Valley Park District on first today, so we don't run over and run out of time on you again. Apologies again to Nick and Lauren for that last time. And we'll talk a little bit about Green Up Day and some beaver film discussion. So let's go ahead and roll into the public comment. Any public comment for today? All right, not seeing any hands, nothing going on here in the room. So next up will be the minutes from January 17th. Can you pull those up, Simon?
Oh, 6.5, it should probably be cellar holes and stone walls.
Okay. Right. We're scrolling up to 6.3, just looking at one of the follow-up items in there to connect with Ethan Tapper. Have you reached out to Ethan Tapper to put one?
Ethan's on vacation at the moment.
What?
Good for
He
him.
takes vacations?
Yeah.
He's in Costa
In Chittenden
Rica.
County Forests,
Yeah.
it's camping.
He's cute.
There was something that I saw, and I can't remember the number.
I guess, I don't know, this is very minor, but point of clarification on 7.1. Eric noted the select board were likely to allocate 40,000 to the ERF this year, which is below the 150,000 they requested. I'll just clarify that to the 150,000 the Conservation Commission requested. Someone might interpret that as select board requested it.
Yeah, you could also just take out the word they
Yeah.
below the 150,000 requested.
That's a good idea.
And I think I found my spot, Eric.
Okay.
In 4.2, where we're talking about truckloads, the one with 20 trucks per day. Where is it? Okay, where it says the existing MRF will be removed from service of the truck traffic on Avenue C will be redirected to Redmond Road. They do not anticipate an immediate increase in truck traffic. I think that was meant to mean they do not expect an increase in the number of trucks visiting the new MRF compared to the old MRF, but definitely on Redmond Road, an increase in traffic. So I felt like that didn't quite, it was a little bit misleading, that sentence. So maybe didn't expect an increase in the number of trucks visiting the MRF compared to the number of trucks currently visiting Avenue C.
Okay.
Any other comments on the minutes from January 17th? If not, may I have a motion to approve as amended?
I'll make a motion to do so.
Thank you, Laura. I have a second. All right, thanks, Gary. Mr. Chance, the second on the motion. Um, all in favor of approving the minutes of January 17th as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
I,
Thank you. Any opposed? And any abstentions?
I'll abstain since I wasn't there.
Terry abstained. Thank you, Terry. All right, motion passes. Minutes are good to go as amended. Thanks again, Simon. All right. 7:11. We're 1 minute late. Sorry. How's it going, Nick? Welcome to you and to Lauren. Let's get rolling into your Winooski Valley Park District update. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll be a little bit distracted just because our gate, the lock on our gate at Ethan Allen Homestead is stuck right now. So our caretaker is trying to cut it open. So
All right.
I might be rushing down there in about 20 minutes. So, but Tim is on it. Tim's stuck up in Cambridge because he's dropping his kids off. And anyway, so there's a little drama going on, but
Okay. All right. We'll work with it.
there's a caretaker with a sawzall right now. So that's in the back of my mind. But thank you for having us here. And actually, the last meeting, I was fascinated by the whole discussion about the solid waste districts project. And I mean, that whole area, I mean, it's in the same area that we're talking about. So I was just fascinated by that. So it wasn't a total loss. And I just, Simon, thank you for laying out that process in that document. It really nails it. Right now, our attorney Ed Fitzpatrick is working on putting together a draft easement. He didn't have it ready for this meeting, but he will have it ready for the next time, which sometime in March. We'd very much like to come back with a lot more detail. Tim's going to put together a draft management plan. I was talking to him about it yesterday. He can put together some pretty good early numbers on what it might look like to put together just the basic park elements. But frankly, the biggest, not concern, but the biggest thing we want to do is the community outreach. We just feel like this project has been, has come and gone from the public eye. And it would be irresponsible for us to go a whole lot further without doing some kind of outreach to the public, and at least let them know that this is going on, and then give them specific opportunities to physically walk the site and to have comments. We're going to learn a lot about how the community uses that property and how it would like to use the property. And so that's for us, that's a big deal. The last thing we want to do is come in with a proposal that the neighbors feel sideswiped with, especially since we're creating a new access. Also, I saw Simon made some good points about some of the technical stuff around wetlands delineation and permitting and stuff. And frankly, we haven't really started that yet. So that's going to be a big part of what we do over the next few months is the permitting. Ed is also, he already did a sort of a soft title poll, and now he's going to delve a little bit deeper, just make sure there's no issues. I also need to reach back out to Green Mountain Power and Transco, because they're important players here with the easement going right through the middle. They've been great and supportive, but they are part of the story and part of the planning for the park. It's a great opportunity with this group. I would love to hear from people on how they feel the community would like to encounter this project at this point, and how we could do that both formally and informally. And every town is different. So I'd really love to hear from you folks, your thoughts about that.
Thanks, Nick. I would say that we being Reed and Simon sort of primed the pump a little bit on that. Whenever it was back in December when we did that conservation program.
Well, about Williston.
Man, thank you, Reed. Wow, about Williston. And Reed and Simon reviewed a bunch of the different conserved parcels here in town, and I can't remember if it was Simon or Reed at this point. Simon talked about the Jacob Krantz parcel as part of all that. So there was a little bit of that to, at least to the outreach to the folks who attended, which was about 50 people or so. So I'd say it's not completely out of the public eye, just because of that event, but, I agree that it would be good to put together, some sort of a, schedule or plan that involves particularly the folks in those adjoining neighborhoods over
Yes.
there. And then, maybe a front porch forum campaign of some sort and an observer article or two as well would be great.
Mhm.
Simon, what's on the website currently for Jacob Grants?
Not a great deal. There's something on our website that just explains a little bit of the history about it, how the town came to acquire it. And
The map of
Yeah.
where it is.
a map of where it is. I'm probably putting it up.
I think I just found it. It just seemed to me like, one thing I was thinking, Nick and company, is that last time we did public outreach, we did a site visit, and that
Yes.
works for some people, but it doesn't work for other people.
Yes,
Two thoughts about that. One is I agree the people who currently use that parcel informally or who live next to it are probably the ones who had the most concerns about development of the parcel. So I think that's really the prime group to get with. I feel like the general public, if they found out, 3 months in advance, hey, this park is being developed and is gonna be available in the fall or something. They would just be excited to hear about that and to go and explore it, but the neighbors for sure would wanna know that it's, that the process is starting and what the steps are and what measures are being taken to limit impact on the land, to limit impact on noise disturbance and people wandering off trail and stuff like that. I think that's an important group. And so what I was thinking in terms of how to do public outreach, I think I would really like to see us invest in something that's on the website so that we could do, whether it's mailings or however we can contact maybe the HOAs that are along there and let them know to pass on the website link to their residents. See,
Right.
Dave has his hand up.
Yeah, I'll just to add on to that, and I'll get to
Yeah.
Dave, it might even be worth, if we have the ability to reach out to the, HOAs and get on an agenda for a future board meeting or something.
that's a great idea. Now, do any of those homeowners associations have specific responsibilities or agreements with the town? Sometimes sometimes they're just loose groups, and sometimes they're more organized around specific things.
I don't know, we'd have to look at their,
Right,
We'd
I'm
have to
just
look at, that, we don't really have too many agreements with people other than you've got to, when they subdivide, they've got to provide us with documents that show they're going to look after the property.
Right.
I
So
think
that-
there are some
yeah.
legacy stormwater agreements that they have with the town from when they had to upgrade. But it's very much, I think some are more active than others is the impression. I think.
Yep.
Like Bittersweet, I think is fairly active, whereas I think Northview, which is the one right up the top, I was looking at this for some reason. It was a challenge to even find out who was in charge of that.
Right, right.
Dave?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. I just wanted to say congratulations and nice job. Maybe it's too early for congratulations, but it's very exciting that the conversations are ongoing and that the initial outreach with the Global Foundries operations director was obviously very encouraging, but the next step was clearly in the lawyer's hands. And so
Yep.
I assume that those negotiations are going well because it seems like we're developing this timeline and we have some next steps in front of us. So that's super exciting. Do you want to maybe back up for 1 minute and possibly explain to the commission what the access is going to look like for Williston residents, and
Sure.
potentially if the easement that we are talking about would have any impact on those neighborhoods that Simon was pointing to earlier. Is there going to be any impact on that existing sort of, we'll call it informal access for now?
Great point. I think we've stumbled into an access that's gonna have relatively little impact on the area. It is, frankly, it's using the existing access road into the solar complex into an existing gravel parking lot. At which point there would be signage and a gate to ensure people don't drive further than that. And that's where you'd start your walk. And the easement, and you're right, it is in the lawyer's hands, but we have a conceptual agreement already, which is Global Foundries wants a movable easement, which we actually have experience with with a couple of other parks, in that as the solar field is developed over time, that they can move the path, but we're guaranteed access over time. It's just we have to accept that the actual delineation of the path might change. And frankly, the lot might move to a different spot on the property. But yeah, where Simon's putting that circle up there, that butts up against the edge of Bittersweet, sort of on the corner of Bittersweet's property there. But the way this easement goes, at least initially, you can see the green dots, it carries people to the back of the property. So through no expertise of ours, we seem to have stumbled on an access that's pretty ideal from having a pretty much neutral impact on the neighborhood as far as we can tell.
Yeah, this is
Awesome.
exciting. I'll share that for the commission that when Simon and I walked this, it was relatively flat. It's certainly a long walk, but it's very approachable for what is essentially a wild park. If you're gonna walk, you're gonna go for a walk, right? And so this is about as convenient of an entrance into Jacob Grants, I think, as you can get. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, it was good. It was relatively level. It didn't seem that wet, so I don't think we need that much investment in structures to get us into the park at all. We've got a good road. I think Velco use this road as well, so they're they're more Global Foundries also going to have a vested interest in maintaining it. Yeah, it looks great.
And in terms of other access points, I mean, that's part of the planning process. There's already informal access points in a couple of locations. And that can be a huge positive, having eyes and ears with someone who is dedicated to the park. And also the flip side is if someone has an access going in from their private property, that can be an issue if there's no signage and people don't understand that it's private property. But there are a couple existing access points that we could confer with the neighborhood and get a sense of how much they're looking to improve those points. And also the church, the Baptist church, the only reason that we're not utilizing them is their housing project was pulled. They continue to be very supportive. So what I intend to do is reach out to them over the next couple of weeks and say, look, we've secured another access point, but they still have the potential of putting a bridge across that gully and having an access from the church, which we'd certainly be supportive of, but would have to be part of the whole park planning package. So we're, if they have the desire to put one in the future and an access, then we would put that in the plan that's going through permitting. But we're not sure what their intention is right now, but I suspect they would like to. They've been incredibly supportive throughout the entire process. And if that housing project had gone through, they would have built us a parking lot and an access. So they've shown support.
Or I guess, Simon, do you know where you just had that red line drawn across the east side of, was that Bittersweet? Do we have an easement in that area already?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Good.
Well, we walked it a few years ago. We went that route, but we ducked out into the field after a little bit because it was just easier to walk along the edge of the field. But that we did walk for a little ways on the Bittersweet side.
Great, awesome.
Nick,
Uh,
on the topic of public outreach, I do think that this is a unknown area. It will be a surprise to many. I don't think many Williston residents know about it. I live in a neighborhood right off of Mountain View Road, and I can guarantee you none of my neighbors know about this. So, and we're about as close as you can get without actually being abutters to the property. So, the assumption is that you're starting at ground zero,
Okay,
as far as awareness. It's also not a terribly huge parcel, as that map kind of showed, is that your walk into the parcel is going to be almost as long as your walk in the parcel.
yes,
And so whatever sort of plans there might be for trails or what trails are in existence, like I think all of that would be, you know, helpful to explain, because I don't think anyone knows what's in there. I don't think anyone knows what the town owns, or even what or why access would even be interesting to them. You know, why go in there? What's the value? You know, is it going to be a dog walk? Is it going to be a mountain bike? Is it just going to be a trail walk, skiing, etc.?
good point. Yeah, since I don't live in Williston, I just really had no sense of how much the community was aware of this. Sometimes small
Yeah.
properties have a big part in people's lives, and sometimes they're not aware of it, so.
Yeah, given the lack of access, it has, I would say, virtually zero.
Yep.
Terry?
Sorry, I was trying to get my unmute thing on. So I was on the walkabout. I think it must have been about 5 years ago, it seems like,
Yes.
because it was pre-COVID.
Yep,
And it was pretty exciting to go on that walk and see what was out there. And it definitely had, people were using it already for a variety of things. You could tell people were walking it, mountain biking a little bit, seemed like. It definitely is I think Kim maybe mentioned it's a really underserved area. There's not many parks out that way or opportunities. And in the next 5 to 10 years, there's going to be a lot of development on that road. So it's definitely going to be used a lot more soon. And then I just had a question, Nick. You mentioned Green Mountain Power, but is that actually the Velco line, or is it Green Mountain Power?
there's two things going on. One is Green Mountain Power owns a bunch of small strips of land along the edge of the river, and that's part of their
Yes.
requirement to own floodway as a protective thing because of the dam. And then Transco owns the right of way that goes through there. There's, as is typical, I've learned, there's a lot of overlap in terms of how they operate. But they, they're being incredibly cooperative every step of the way. So I think it's going to be the relationship that's been good around trails and parks.
Great. And is Transco the same as Velco?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, and I just have worked through Catamount Community Forest with Velco, with Simon and the whole committee, and they are really easy to work with. They're good. They're very understanding about trails and easements and things. So that's really good.
They couldn't provide, we did, just to be clear, we asked them about access, and because of, they have no idea what their property is going to look like over the next 10, 20 years. They were very honest.
Right.
With access on the western end, we thought, but they didn't totally negate the possibility, but I think there's a whole nother round of energy planning they need to do to understand how they're going to use their parcels. But yes, we've had great luck working with both GMP and Transco.
Great. And I guess just one comment is I'd really like to focus on working with Global Foundries as opposed to the church. I know they're still open and whatnot, but their leadership seems to change and their plans do. So, and take that energy and focus it on Global Foundries.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, we are.
Great. Good. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Gary?
Yeah, I just had a quick question related to the access road and the parking lot. Are those gonna be maintained in the winter too, Nick, do you anticipate?
I believe they plow, so,
Okay.
yeah, I mean.
Oh, great, great.
That
That's
was,
awesome.
that was Jeffrey Cram is the guy from Global Foundries who's our hero, and he believes they're gonna continue plowing that road. So,
That's awesome.
because they have to have access to do maintenance. I believe it's actually part of their permit. So I think we'll be able to, yeah, I mean, like I said, we stumbled into this. There was no genius involved, just a lot of persistence. Jeff is
You're
my
honest.
he's my third contact at Global Foundries.
Okay.
So we got lucky. It took 5 years, but and like
Awesome.
I said, we're not doing a victory lap, but it does, now that the lawyers are conceptually in agreement, that's why we're really hustling on the due diligence now. It's like, okay, this can really happen. So
Yeah.
it's very exciting. And we would like to come back in March. I believe Simon's floating either the 6th or the 20th. Both is fine. I think if we appear on the 20th, we'll have more to share. So it's
Okay.
guys, but we'll have more specifics. And we will start putting together the public outreach plan, and I think that'd be a great topic to re-engage with when we meet again. Because I believe in that being a very robust thing and not shortchanging that because no one knows about it.
Also, we need to engage with the chicken farmer next door as well.
Yes.
Just to brief them on what's going on and what we can do to help not scare their chickens.
Which parcel is that?
It's one to the west.
To the west, yep, that
From the
little
access.
rectangular parcel, yep.
Kim?
I'm just curious if going off of something that Terry mentioned about increased use of that parcel given development in Williston, a number of people that are going to be there over time. Nick, do you periodically monitor use of Winnisky Valley Park parcels? And if yes, is this an opportunity to do that? And would there be value in that from our perspective? That second clause is a question for the Conservation Commission.
What do you mean by monitor? I mean,
Like, do you ever put out like trail counters or have sit people like in summer interns to get an idea of how well used something is? And I'm just thinking like we're having this ongoing conversation about the ERF in town and like this need for the select board to fund conservation, and I'm wondering if this is an opportunity to be like, we got this brand new park and we can show from like its inception how popular it became. And that was a half-baked idea in my mind, so I'm curious if anybody else has feelings about it and if it's worth thinking about. It could go on a future agenda item. I don't think we need to take up a lot of time. I don't mean to like derail our conversation with that comment.
no, the answer is not really. We did some data collection 5-6 years ago. But the level of our scientific monitoring is counting cars in the parking lot and sort of having a general sense of how well parks are being used. Be wide open to gathering more data. You're not the first person to bring that up. Some other select boards have said, can you tell us how many people use your park? And the problem, since we don't monitor and we have 3 full-time staff, or I mean, we don't have park attendants, we don't charge, it makes it more problematic. But I'd be wide open. It'd be really interesting to open a new park and see how many people go there. So let's pick up that topic again at the next meeting. I'd like to look into that a little bit more. I think that's actually, I take your point, and I think that could be fascinating, especially with how Williston has been building out their open space plan. It'd be fascinating. So
Yeah, I agree. It's an interesting idea.
yeah.
Terry.
So just a quick note on that follow-up. So Nick, I don't know if you are aware of all the development happening there. So just starting from Route 2 and Mountain View Road, there's a a development that's proposed right now for the transcendental meditation area.
Mhm.
Just next door, there was another development that is is for sale, I guess, which is 14 units. Then you have the Catamount Golf Course,
Mhm.
which is 141 units.
Wow.
And then you have Glacier, that's kind of in the middle, but that's 109 units. I'm sure I'm missing some, that I don't know about, and there's potential for more. So this is potentially the parking lot might have to be fairly sizable, because I know I go to Colchester Pond,
Mhm.
which is very popular, and especially during COVID, and it is a birding hotspot. So there's a lot of birders that go there in the spring, so fluctuates, but parking lot size is definitely something to pay attention to.
Agreed, and we actually went through a process some years ago around expanding the size of that parking lot and got a lot of resistance from the neighbors. So everything's a balance. If you build it larger, does that mean that you're accommodating existing use, or are you encouraging increased use of the park? So yeah, we should keep an eye on that. If we're getting completely overwhelmed, then we would need to take a deep breath and look at an additional access point or enlarging the parking lot. But yeah, you've hit on something that we deal with, which is carrying capacity of our properties, and actually the parking lots can be a management tool to keep capacity a little bit lower. Colchester Pond is unique in the way that it is its location, and the fact that we don't charge, and the fact that it's just right smack in the middle of Chittenden County. It gets a lot of use.
And this parcel, I think, I don't know how unique it is, but just, I guess it's important to keep in mind when you're thinking about usage, in that on the north side, you have all those neighborhoods that already have their informal access, and presumably will have some sort of formal access, that those folks, I guess, would just be walking into the park.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of users on that end of it that would not even be parking. Then you factor in all the folks that potentially could be using it, that are already here in town, that would be driving there, plus all the new development that's happening right in that area. So it could be a very heavily used park very quickly, which all the reasons speaks to Kim's point about monitoring.
It makes us feel better about carving this out, because we don't do it now, it's never going to happen. So
Reed?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, something came to my mind, and I know, Dave, this is near and dear to your heart, but there's intention for the town to put in a multi-use rec path from 2A along Mountain View Road eventually. When that's going to happen, we don't know. It's a chicken and the egg funding and easement and so on issue. But eventually there should be access for people to walk and bike along Mountain View. So one of the things that might be interesting to consider is just what the options would be for good bike storage for people who want to bike there and safely keep their bike while they go for a hike or something. So that would just be something to maybe keep as right now. There's probably not a lot of people biking on Mountain View Road to go somewhere like that, but in the next few years that could completely change if the multi-use path goes in.
that's a great point.
I appreciate your optimism, Reed.
Hey,
Next few years. I like that.
So just looking at your strategy and your schedule here, I think it's pretty amazing to see that it's all happening potentially within this year and ending this fall with the land transfer.
Yep.
So that's pretty awesome that it's at that point.
just want to bring up one other thing, which is there's the page on the website, but then Eric remembered that there was something else. So while we were talking, he found we have a story map that was done. I don't know if that was done by students or Melinda or who.
I think it was a UVM class that put the story map together a couple years ago.
So Eric and I can share the links with Simon, so we have them collected, but we have a page on the website, a story map, and then from the page, there are links at the bottom that take you to, what was it called?
I think it's a white paper or something like that.
Yeah, it was called the Community Meeting Presentation and the Community Meeting and Visioning Workshop, and then the Natural Resource Inventory and the project description. So we have a number of resources already out there. There's a lot of pictures, there's a lot of maps, including aerial photography and stuff from long ago to see how the parcel has evolved over time. So I think there's a lot of resources already around that could be morphed into something more formal if we're moving toward a launch.
I have a couple presentations too as well that go all the way back to the geology of the site. I mean, it's actually pretty fascinating.
Yeah, the Champlain Sea, and then the fact that it was probably the beach-ish, and so on, yeah.
Yeah, if you just Google Williston Jacob Krantz, it'll pop up under ArcGIS story maps in the first couple returns. Awesome. What else, Nick? What else did you wanted to share with us?
That's pretty much it. And a pledge to come back in March with a lot more detail. And Tim is going to join us with that for that meeting as well, because he's the park planner essentially. So you'll have probably all three of us in March for the next meeting, and a lot more materials to look at.
So that would probably be like a draft park layout, and then maybe some sort of plan for how we're going to do the public consultation. I think would be the two main points as I see it there. Yeah.
Great.
That's
It's
awesome.
really exciting. Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, then we'll let you get back to your Sawzall and fixing that gate.
It's open. Just gotta check it's open.
You don't have to hop the fence anymore.
I was gonna grab my crowbar because apparently I got wedged on the wrong side. So no, it's all good.
Yeah, one of those situations, yeah. Excellent. All right, well, thanks again for
Thanks,
coming
Nick.
back. Great to
Thank
hear
you.
all that progress.
Thanks,
Thank
Nick.
you. You bet.
All
Thanks
right,
for
have a good
doing it.
one.
Thanks, Lauren.
All right, was Deb coming in for Green Up Day?
Yeah, she is.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to talk about other business for a bit.
Sure. Is somebody coming in for Beaver film discussion too?
Yes.
Okay, all right, other business then.
Jim.
So we have the Conservation Commission at the Historic Architectural Design Committee. Boy,
I think
a
that's
hard acronym.
Historic Design and Architectural Committee, HDAC.
HDAC, all right.
As well.
Okay.
They're still hacks to me.
Yeah.
Laura and Kim and Terry and I and Simon joined the HDAC committee last night here in this room to chat about to follow up on our last conversation at Conservation Commission about chapter 13 and the town plan and
Thank you for going. I was like,
Sure.
I can't be there.
yeah. So it
thanks.
was good. It was nice to just connect with another advisory committee
Yeah.
here in town, if nothing else, but it was a good conversation as well. I thought, and so we had, a nice chat about that section 13.4, I think it is, of the town plan, and I don't know that we made any real conclusion. I had to leave early, but so I don't know if there was any real next steps that came out of the conversation, but
I think there's definitely, I think what I took away, there's a lot of interest in it.
Yeah.
Like people were really interested in cultural heritage. Distilling it down to archaeology, it's bigger than that. It's, geology, archaeology, more modern history, standing buildings. Some good discussions about making that information more accessible to people, whether regulations are feasible and how much can we actually find out, because there's stuff everywhere. It is part of the
Limited
issue.
resources.
Yeah. It brings to mind the whole SWHA thing, where you know, back in 2008 or whatever, just tried to protect everything and it didn't really work. You need a more refined approach. And then just sort of, I think some members were particularly interested in, I don't know what you call it, like voluntary oral history reporting and things like that from people's individual properties.
There's some, is it StoryCorps goes out and records stories with people? There's, yeah, that's an interesting idea to interview people about their land or about the parcels
Yeah.
around folks who have been in town for their whole lives.
Especially on the older farms.
And especially with the way technology can do such a better job at dictating that into text, so interviews could become physical documents.
Maybe transcribed.
Which is, that's what I mean, yeah, transcription, yeah. Might be the least work possible to just go out and record people telling stories about their land and have that turn into part of the historical archives for the town.
Yeah, Otter AI actually works so well. When I was a PhD student, I had to manually transcribe all of my interviews, like using a foot pedal. And there was like, I would hire undergrads to do it. And there are so many mistakes. Like my favorite one was the organization Wild Earth Guardians showed up as Wild Oat Guardians in every interview. But now Otter AI does it like super efficiently, and it can distinguish like accents and in between individual speakers, and you still have to read through it and it makes some errors, but it's like better than an undergrad.
Well, that's not a very high bar, Kim.
It's better than a hungover, disinterested undergrad.
I was like, does Wild Oat Guardian even make sense to you? Why did you type that 75 times?
Yeah, I was thinking that too. That would be interesting to reach out to. I don't know if there's a program at UVM or Champlain or St. Mike's or wherever that you know that would have a cadre of students who would be interested in doing something like that. But that would be very interesting. I know that a fellow who lived behind me for 50 years passed away a year or so ago, and he had some really interesting stories about life up on our hill, so to speak. It would have been really cool to document. So that would be, and that's, I don't know if that's on that's out of the purview of the Conservation Commission, but you know, an interesting idea. I think that came away from that conversation with the historic committee.
Well, I think as Chelsea was saying, is this in our purview now that we don't do design review in the growth centre because of form-based code? They don't really have as much to do now. They're reviewing stuff in the village.
Yeah, I sort of feel like the HCAC should be the primary on the history, the human history aspect. I never really would, if somebody had asked me, you know, is the WCC responsible for archaeological considerations in terms of preserving land and reviewing requests and stuff, I would have been like, I don't think so. That doesn't sound right. So I wonder whether was there any sense of whether they had appetite to sort of be the leaders on?
I don't really know them as well as like I know you in Catamount. I don't really know the characters involved. Honestly, I mean, Chelsea seemed to be interested in it, and Emily, sorry, was very enthusiastic. About that sort of stuff.
I think I mentioned that the Conservation Commission could be interested if there are parcels that are available that possibly if there are a lot of cellar holes and interesting things on a parcel, it could bump the priority up.
Yeah, and that's not something we included in our last prioritization was, cultural history landmarks.
Right.
Wasn't on our radar.
Yeah, I mean, they did explain to us by Emily, our Emily explained, it can be a challenge to get those maps. Well, you're not allowed those maps, basically, of the archaeological finds.
Right.
From the state.
Because they don't want people finding the stuff.
Well, they don't want people going, great, I'm gonna go up there and dig it up, take it away and sell it.
Well, people even dig into the, we're digging into the graves on Sucker Brook. And it's not even on the part of the park.
Yeah,
Mm,
I think one of the main takeaways for me from Conservation Commission related to that conversation was that the folks on the historic committee felt or they acknowledged that it's very expensive to do this archaeological research and so that or monitoring, and so they felt that like they didn't want to impose that on
yeah,
landowners or developers when somebody's trying to subdivide or develop a parcel.
seems much more like an opportunity for voluntary collaboration, like if the historic committee was willing to, offer to landowners if they wanted to work on documenting the history of their parcel, or they had something to look into that they would have somewhere to bring that ask to be connected with services or.
Well,
that
that's
sort of
what,
thing.
that's what Sam Ford does. She goes to
Yeah.
people's farms, yeah, and, yeah. Does a lot of research on what's where and who was there.
Yeah, I wonder if Sam could be hired by the town to document what's already known to exist. You know, like the cellar holes, the rock walls and stuff. She already has a lot of that from parcels she's already researched in town
Right,
to kind of consolidate it. Anyway, has he handled it?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just noticed it too. So I think I saw Gary up first.
I just had a quick question. Do you think we could use ERF funds to do those cultural assessments in potential properties?
Right.
I mean. It sounds like a little bit of a stretch. But I guess if you felt like cultural resources were fundamental to you conserving this piece of land, you could do it, but they're really supposed to be for, title searches and attorney's fees and things like that.
And actually acquisition.
Cost of land.
Yeah, it'd be worth thinking about if we could
Yeah.
make that
that's-
happen. I'm not saying do an overall townwide thing, but when a property comes up that we're considering conserving, it seems like it'd be a good investment to know, particularly, to know any cultural resources that would guide the conservation work.
Yeah, it might be worth bringing Jess Robinson, who's the state archaeologist, back in again, or someone on his team to just review the different steps. Like, is there a higher level type of assessment that can be done on a property before they actually dig into with shovels and whatever else? Like as phase 1, phase 2 type of thing. That might be good to helpful to know about, particularly for some of the parcels that could be conserved here in town. Dave, I think you're next.
Thanks. I mean, what a great linkage between what we were just talking about and this particular committee, because if Jacob Krantz parcel really does become widely accessible in the next 12 months, that's a boom, not just for this committee, but potentially for that historic committee as well. I followed that link and looked at the old community meeting, and the old seabed from the Ice Age seabed could create some interesting opportunities for historic education and native North American history and how they used this landscape during the ice ages. And I don't know if there's any potential for archaeological finds in this parcel, but it's certainly opening up that land to the broader community creates an opportunity for us to work with that committee directly on things like education. And we've done beaver signs, we can do archaeological signs too, explaining what the land was and maybe how it was used 10,000 years ago. So I think that's kind of an exciting opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely, it seems like there's definitely a really good opportunity for interpretation there in that park as it's built out. And I gotta confess, I haven't used many of the Winooski Valley Park District parks before, so I don't know how much interpretation they have once you're inside the park, beyond the parking lot. But that's an interesting idea. We could do something like what we have in the Allenbrook trails right over here with the wayside exhibits. I happen to know somebody who coordinates those exhibits, so we could work with that person. But that's, yeah, definitely something to keep in mind, maybe bring up with our conversation with Nick and crew in March when they come back.
Mhm.
Kim?
I just put in the chat to Simon, I thought that this program had been phased out, and I think someone last night said that too, but it looks like it's still going, and it is headed up by Bob McCullough, who his background is in like city and regional planning, but he has had a long and like really prolific career in historic preservation, and he's written a number of books about like town and community owned forests, specifically in New England, in Vermont and Massachusetts. And I like in my head, for some reason, when we were at the meeting last night, I thought he had retired, but I think he has not. And so I just wonder if like this is the group of, if we wanted it to be a student project, if it's like this group of students, this program. So just for people to know, and also anyone who's like really interested in like the legacy of town forests and why New England has so many and other parts of the country doesn't. He's like, his books are amazing. They're fascinating and just like really cool to be like, oh, this is why our state looks the way it does.
Mhm.
Yeah, it sounds like exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know why last night in my head I was like, oh, he retired. He didn't. It does not appear that he did. And I actually think I said this last night too. I'm pretty sure I have a meeting on my calendar with a group of people and he's going to be there. So if I have like a minute, I'll mention it to him, but it's probably also just like separately, we should think about connecting with this program.
Mhm.
Cool.
Kim, what's his name again?
Bob McCullough. I think it probably says Robert on the website.
All right, anything else on the meeting from last night or on this topic in particular, in general?
I was just still waiting for Deb, should be along in a couple of minutes.
Okay. I need to run over to the school for a meeting. I'll be back around 8:30 or so. I'm gonna turn it over to Dave, for the next half hour at least. I don't know if you have other business you want to catch up on.
Yeah, I do. I don't know where Deb is, but I think I told her to work on.
Yep, I'm here.
So I told I emailed Eric last week, telling him that the next conservation commission meeting is going to be my last.
What? You didn't email me that.
Wait, what? No, that was not
Oh.
communicated to us.
I thought it was funny that you but
How did I miss that?
yeah.
Yeah, I missed it.
Selective reading, apparently.
So I finish up on March 1st. So Matt's looking for a replacement at the moment to take over my role and run your meetings for you.
Okay.
Wait, do you want to tell us where you're going and what's happening?
So my wife and I decided we're going to move back to the UK. So obviously I won't be able to do this job. From there, the time difference will be a challenge.
Come on now.
And
Site
the site
visits might be
walks, yeah.
tough.
So we're doing that in early May.
Wow,
So yeah,
Oh, we're
Wow.
gonna miss you, Simon.
Yeah,
nice.
yes.
It's been fun. I've learned a lot.
yeah,
Yeah, it's gonna be hard for Matt to find somebody as good as you. I hope you appreciate that.
Thank you. That's very kind.
Yes, you're
Um,
done
yeah.
well.
Belinda was beloved, but we've really benefited a lot from just working with somebody new as well.
Mhm.
No, it's been good.
Thank you.
I've learned a lot from like each and every one of you. Like I said earlier to you, I think Eric might be, and everyone has their like specialism. So if you really need a piece of like, I don't know what to do here, or I don't know, this is a very technical issue, generally there's someone who can help at the meetings, which is great, a great resource to have. And I'm very lucky. Yeah.
Thanks, Simon.
Thank you for everything, Simon.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, still got one more meeting.
One more meeting.
Well, thank you again
Yeah.
next weekend.
Yes.
Next meeting too.
Wow, all right, I'm sorry I missed that email.
Okay.
I thought you were
Yeah.
being dramatic. You really didn't read.
Missed that one entirely. You sure you didn't send it to Eric Wells instead?
Maybe not, maybe I will.
Right, I gotta go dig back to my email. All right, I'll be back hopefully in a half hour. Maybe I'll see you in a bit. Thanks, Dave.
Is there any other business to
Is the
go to? Go ahead, Kim.
Oh, I just was gonna ask if there's like a posting up for
oh,
Simon's
you're breaking up,
position
Kim.
that we should
Yeah.
be like helping send out.
Yeah, you're wondering if
Post
there's
it
a
anywhere,
post.
Simon, that we should like send. Yeah, yes.
Is the job posted anywhere?
I think Matt's dealing with that. I know he's getting the job description run through as part of the ongoing drive to like professionalize everything in the town. And we're trying to get all the job descriptions consistent with each other and legally compliant. So it went through that, and I think it's been generally stuff gets posted internally first and then externally after that.
Okay, if you could share that with us, I certainly would be willing to communicate in our networks.
Okay.
All right. If there's no other business, it looks like I saw her. Deb is
Yeah,
here.
get me a cheese on.
Should we transition now to Green Update 2024?
Yes, great. So this is Deb's here from Sustainable Williston, the disparate group who helped us out on Wild About Williston, which is a big success, and also promoting No Mo May last year, which also went very well. So I think she linked back with us back in the fall and said she wanted to get on the agenda at some point in the run up to Green Update to talk about other initiatives. And I believe the initiative, I'll let Deb explain it, is taking No Mo May a step further.
Yes, so thanks for letting me join your meeting. I do want to continue with No Mo May again this year if people are interested in that. I think it was successful from what I saw. There was a lot of talk about it, and people got on board and took signs and participated. And then I'm just based on people's discussions on Front Porch Forum and in other places that the feedback was actually on both ends. But the side that I'm gonna grab onto is that No Mo May, it doesn't go far enough because you're just you're leaving your lawn unmown for a month, which is great for pollinators and habitat, but then you're cutting it down again, and insects that could have you know, started nesting or creating habitats in those lawns are then being cut. So I'm seeing from initiatives around the country that the next step is try to reduce parts of your lawn. So no mow may kind of is like a step towards doing that, but now the real step is let's all try to reduce our how much lawn we have and replace it with native plants or wildflower patches, or just let it go back to its natural state. And so I was going to propose that we do no mow May again, but then kind of change the narrative a little bit towards reducing your lawn just in general for the whole season. And then so these are some, I can jump into some action points that I have here, or I can stop there and we can chat first. I feel like this group already knows so much that I don't know if I need to like explain it, but I could.
I think it'd be just a few minutes. It'd be helpful just to explain. I circulated your email yesterday, but not everyone always has time to read everything I send them.
Yeah. So basically, the benefits are multifold. If you're reducing your amount of lawn, you're reducing your emissions. Lawnmowers have, I don't have the stats in front of me, but it's like going on a 40-mile trip just to do one small piece of lawn with a lawnmower. So purposes of reducing emissions, creating habitats, providing food for our bees and other insects. And without bees, 2/3 of our food, berries, wouldn't be pollinated. So we need to protect them. Many insects are endangered. We're losing insects at an alarming rate. And just trying to go back to encouraging people to plant native plants in places instead of lawns. And I think that also the push towards creating mini meadows in your lawn is something that can be accomplished. And again, it's for creating these habitats in our lawns that we have, you know, that we're trying to be stewards of. So trying to get parts of our lawn back to where they're supposed to be naturally. So that's the idea behind it.
Thanks, Deb. Invite comments or questions.
Yeah, Dave. Yeah, I was trying to. So one of the benefits of No Mow May, Deb, is that it's a recognizable movement in this area. People have heard about it, even if they don't know exactly what it means. They've heard about it, and I feel like, oh yeah, that's that No Mow May thing. Let me, stop in and see what the signs are about, or see if it's something that I want to do. And it kind of is it's catchy and specific. So I was trying to think about if we were to try to expand the scope a little bit, how could we make it similarly catchy for people thinking about Green Up Day? We often get I would say 5 seconds when people are walking by to decide whether they're going to stop and ask. And so I think last year we did mention, when I was there at least, we mentioned, we're doing No Mow May, and also, you can also consider rewilding some of your lawn. But we do get just a couple seconds when they're walking by to try to grab their attention. So any ideas that the commission or you have, Deb, about how to do the branding of it? I mean, sometimes branding is seen as a negative thing. It's like trying to trick people, but if you're trying to trick them into doing something good, I feel like that's good branding or good marketing.
Yeah.
So I saw the American Meadows link. Go ahead, Deb.
No, so I agree. I don't think we should, if we're gonna do it, I think we should continue with No Mow May because that was gaining momentum. But then maybe it could be the sticker of reduce your lawn that's kind of on it. And apparently there's this new initiative, Reduce Your Lawn Day, May 20th. So we could kind of jump on that. And so I would recommend doing signs again. I don't know, Simon, if we have any left over, or if there's.
We do.
Okay, so we could, you know, I don't know if this is possible, but add one of the round stickers of reduce your lawn right on it.
Or we could
but-
give out stickers that people could put on their existing sign if they
Yeah.
wanna add it to it.
We could do that. And then I thought I could try to reach out to American Meadows and see if they would like to donate packets of native wildflower seed that people could also pick up a green up day along with it. Just to get, you know, a way to draw people in, give out free seed, and then do another article again, but same kind of thing, but maybe more of a push towards reducing your lawn, and then posting on social media to try to get that branding out, get the message out. And again, Front Porch Forum, so similar to what we did last year, but go a little further.
Yeah, I know that it definitely took hold in at least the school kids community. My kids were very engaged,
Cool.
and in their mind, the amount of lawn I wasn't mowing wasn't big enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I heard that every day.
Yeah, no, I know, same. And also because they don't understand, they're like, why, I don't get this. Like, why are you cutting grass? It's just a different, you know, history
Yeah.
for us older people.
Terry, I see your hand up.
Yes, it was a great program. I think I was there last year just for a little short time and handing out literature and signs. And it was a lot of people swung in and grabbed signs. And I saw a few, I live on, the out near Lake Iroquois, and I actually saw some folks with signs out on
Right.
South Road and things. So I thought that was great. And I know that, out there, it's the rural part. But some folks live in HOA areas, which, sometimes the neighbors aren't so appreciative that people are not mowing their lawn and things like that. So I think going towards maybe rewilding, or I shared a link with Deb and Simon about this woman in Jericho that she and her husband just took over their yard and just turned it into these beautiful gardens with pathways. So they really made it appealing to the eye, as opposed to just throwing, I mean, it's great to have wildflowers. I think that's wonderful. But if people object to that kind of a lawn maintenance, something a little bit more formal to have paths and things. And so the American Meadows you mentioned, Mike, who was a co-owner, he's great. And I've gotten wild packets of wild seeds and actually bags of wild seeds to use in different projects. And now is the time to put out that request, because if you wait till even April, he's already given out his allotment of seeds that he has. So, but yeah, it's a great program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. Gary, see your hand up?
Yeah, I just had a kind of another thought on how we could advance this, and I wonder, I don't know who would do it, but it'd be nice to have some kind of packet or information that somebody had that could go specifically to large landowners that are mowing a lot now, and you see them around town, and just give them information about, what are the benefits of not mowing, how much money you'll save because you can have reduced hours on the lawnmower. And I'm just thinking of the back I guess it's a Baptist church over on Mountain View that, I mean, they must mow 4 or 5 acres of land, and they do that repeatedly week after week. So that would be an example of just saying, hey, have you thought about the fact that you don't need to mow that much? It's good not to, and you'll save money. You know, that's,
Gary,
I don't
did
know
you
who-
see that they had a big stretch of their frontage property in May that they left wild? And I think
I
they
did
even,
see that.
yeah, it was actually one of the more stunning results, I thought, of
Now, is
No Mow May.
you think they're going to continue leaving that wild, or is that like a no, just a
No,
no mow
they-
May thing?
They definitely started mowing later in the
Right.
summer. I don't think they left it.
Because it'd be a
Ton.
great, really visible place to, if you could even approach them. Are you willing to do it? And in fact, can we demonstrate different ways of doing it, like just the no mow May, and then the wilding, and maybe you wild, but you plant wildflowers versus letting it just go back to woody plants, you know, a bunch of different options that it would be really visible there. And I think the key is it's like anything. If you can prove that you're going to save money too, that's a huge help for getting those type of things done.
I know
Yeah.
that this came up last year, but you know, just within the town of Williston, there are patches of grass that we could reduce. And I was thinking of there's a corner of the Williston rec path by the school, by the soccer fields, that's a bunch of raspberries and blackberries. And was that something that was planted or just left, or Reed, do you know?
My recollection is it's just naturally rewilded there because they weren't mowing it. You're talking about on the Allen Brook side of the volleyball intersection, is that?
The not Allen Brook, but yes,
The-
near the
well-
volleyball.
Yeah, I'm talking about like on the side of the rec path where the Allen Brook
Yes,
goes. Yeah,
yes,
so like across from the volleyball courts and the soccer fields. And my
yeah,
recollection is that that area just hasn't been mowed for enough years that it's started to get, yeah, blackberries. There's some small like willow and stuff coming in.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
it's just like full of ripe berries in late August, and it's such a great example of,
Yeah.
you know, kids could walk home from school and they can pick berries and have a snack. And so I
Yeah.
think that in addition to like the Baptist church type places, you can do that through the town too. And I know that maybe Public Works might not be excited about it, but we could try again.
All right, I see Reed and then Kim.
Yeah, so a couple things that came up that I really like. One is kids are really into No Mow May. Kids are really into rewilding and pollinators. I think reaching out, figuring out who we can talk to at the school to advertise it through the school newsletter would reach a lot of people. And we could let them know, come to Green Up Day where you can get your sign or additional materials or perhaps seed packets. So that's one thing I think we should do, is get it into the school news. Another is last year, the library had a seed library and people could take seeds. They had little baggies and you could like go through the different flowers or grasses and stuff they had and put some seeds into packets to bring home. I thought that was kind of cool. So we could I can't remember the name of the librarian staff that was there, but she's very into it. So I'm sure she would be interested in talking about the seed aspect, providing seeds. So kids and the schools, seeds, and I think whether it's Public Works or one of the churches that has a lot of lawn that's got street frontage or something, I think it would be good to do try to get one partner to do a big demonstration project this year. I think it's a lot to just do the Green Up Day and to do the outreach leading up to it and to get all the materials lined up. So I think to me, the reasonable thing that we could actually do well would be to try to get like one good partner, and maybe in order to document it, we need to go out and like take some photographs, like take a photograph in April, take a photograph like each week during May, and then be able to have those photographs for like an Observer article or for the town website page. Be able to have some materials developed that we can use going into next year, because then you could go to other properties and say, to Gary's point, you can save money, you can improve the watershed health, and you can improve pollinator habitat. And by the way, it's not, you wouldn't be the first one to do it. Here's some photographs from our partner from last year. So I think we could build on it in future years if we just get one good partner this year and really invest in doing that well.
Mhm.
And one more thing, and then I know Kim has come, and that's just that I think that no mow May and rewilding lawns and stuff. A lot of people have argued that it's a very minimal, it's like, oh, it's just this little bit of lawn, but to me, to the point that Dave made about all the conversations that he had to have with his kids about, how come we're not avoiding mowing more of our lawn and stuff. To me, it's a cultural thing. If people are seeing the signs, if people are trying it out, it helps develop like a community culture around just being mindful of the impacts of the habits that we have. And while some people are gonna be like, oh, I'm not gonna do no mow May because, my wife really loves seeing the lawn perfect and mowed. Just having the conversation and thinking about it, I think impacts the community more broadly, so.
Yeah.
Thanks, Reed. Kim?
Good morning,
So-
Oh.
Most of what I was gonna say,
Okay.
Reed said. So, but the one thing that I was gonna add was that I feel like if the library could do like some type of craft to get kids involved, like my kids are like the seed bag is there's like some version of that Bonnie, the kids librarian, could lead to
Bonnie,
get
that's her
kids.
name. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's amazing. Like the little seed ball things, you know what I'm
Mhm. It's
and then
like
also
paper and
yeah.
seeds
My kids they love doing that. And then the other thing I was gonna say is just reinforce Reed's point about community culture. When we did when Lake Champlain's Sea Grant folks did focus groups probably like 10 years ago now about raise the blade and like what would get homeowners to adopt that. The thing we found was that like the biggest barrier was keeping up with the Joneses, right? It wasn't that like that and that people didn't know how to raise their lawnmower blade. And so I think that like one of those is solvable quite quickly and one of them's a little harder. But I think there's really something to that of like creating a community culture, because it turns out like the biggest reason people, or one of the biggest reasons people mow their lawn to 1 inch is that like they want it to look like their neighbor's lawn. So I don't know. That's just to reinforce your point about community culture. And also that spot that has berries also has apple trees. Like that must have been a farm at some point.
Mhm.
Thanks, Kim. I wanted to just add that on what Reed was saying, that the school events that come to my mind as far as big community events at the school where you're reaching a lot of parents and kids would be the big basket raffle. And if there's a way, so you could have there could either be a presence at the big basket raffle itself. I'm not sure if that's really doable, or to talk to a teacher and have a theme of a big basket of this sort of like native wildflower. There's always a gardening and there's always some form of like outdoorsy or recreation type basket theme, and this could potentially be one of them. It might cater to a different type of family looking for a basket, but that might be an interesting idea. And then the second event that is very much similar would be the Rotary Easter egg hunt. And that is a lot of kids and a lot of young families that would probably not really have a huge exposure to No Mow May, because they might even be new to Williston as well. That was certainly one of our first events in the community for us. Okay, is there any other comments? Great, thanks for bringing this back. Yeah, Reed.
Just one more, I'd forgotten about Raise the Blade, so I think, it's really encouraging when people come up to give them options. To say,
Mhm.
you know, ultimately, we would love for people to rewild their lawns. But if you're not ready for that, we have like steps, you know, if you've never done this before, just try raising your blade this year. And then, or if you raised your blade, great, this year, try not mowing part or all of your lawn during May, and so on, just like helping people make that incremental change. I think that's a really good way to approach it,
Yeah,
on the day of.
and the letting the really diehard folks know that there are resources if you want to rewild your yard, and if that's even an option for you. Because it's not for me in my HOA, but you know, I think they're pretty permissive about going a little wild, at least in the backyard. And so that's where I've been trending towards. All right, I want to keep moving. I see Terry just raised your hand.
Just a quick mention that the woman Mav in Jericho offered to give tours of her yard. And if people wanted to take a look at how to re-garden their lawn.
All right, thanks.
Terry, it sounds like you said you know the owner of American Meadows. Is that something maybe you could introduce me to ask for donations of small packets to give out, or
Sure. Yeah. I see Mike, you know, he's at different events all the time. But I can reach out to him and see, but we got a lot for North Hero Rec Department. He was very generous with bags of seeds, but he
Okay.
has also small packets. So yeah, I can do,
Yeah.
I'll introduce you folks.
it could, be donated at different events to talk about it. Thank you.
Great, no problem.
Thanks for coming here, Deb. That was really helpful, and we're looking forward to seeing more.
Thank
Okay,
you, Deb.
thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, Simon, we're on more or less on schedule. Beaver film discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really, we've got Jim here. You may be familiar with, put together with his friend who owns a drone, the footage that was shown at Wild About Williston, which was the aerial footage, but also the close-up shots of the beavers in action. He just approached me a couple of weeks ago, just about maybe putting together a film about beavers, and I thought, you know, he's asking me who we could approach, who we could talk to, who's a good resource for information, and I thought it'd be helpful for him to meet with the Conservation Commission just to talk about what advice we can provide and what expertise.
Hey, good morning.
Hi,
I'm Jim
Jim.
Heltz.
Thanks, Jim.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. So I'm a filmmaker. I've lived in Williston since 1990, and I've worked here since '85. And my company was known as Green Mountain Video, and I've done a lot of films, both corporate and documentaries. I've done actually 2 films about Williston. One, I was hired to do Williston, a community portrait back in the '90s for the state's 200th anniversary. And then when the town celebrated their 250th anniversary, the town of Williston, I did that film about them. And so, and a few of my films have been on PBS, and I've done a lot of, like I said, corporate work, but also some news work for the nightly NBC News and CNN and things like that. So anyway, so I live in Wildflower Circle, and I know about the beavers because I take a hike on the Allenbrook Trail all the time, and I noticed in the summer things started changing a little bit. I was like, oh, looks like the beavers are back. So I spoke to Simon to find out more what was going on, and I thought it might be an interesting project to sort of interview different people in the community, the Conservation Commission here, and also other representatives of the town and residents, and then the state of Vermont Fish and Wildlife, and the person that put in the beaver baffle, also known as a beaver deceiver, which goes underneath a dam and sort of relieves the water, so it doesn't necessarily, doesn't stop it from flooding out a little bit, but it makes it more manageable. So both residents that are being impacted and the beavers are both sort of happy. So
Mhm.
anyway, so I was thinking of I'm looking to put it together a documentary about it. I think it'll be light in tone. I mean, it's not too serious of an issue, hopefully. So, but I figured I'd get to interview different people that have expertise about not only about the beavers themselves and also managing the beavers, but also about the change of Allen Brook. You know, what was like before the beavers, well, before European settlers were in the area, what the area was like. And then once they came, how it changed. And then, of course, the constant going back and forth when beavers are here and when beavers are not here. And mostly focusing on the present situation. So I'm hoping to, I think the project's going to take some time, you know, within the next 6 months to a year, I think we'll have, because it changes over time. So when I first started filming, there was impacts, you know, visibly some impacts that it was starting. But if you look at it today, it's really spread out in a couple of major areas on the brook. So I want to sort of capture all that. And then, like I said, pepper that with interviews, different community members and town staff. And like I said, some outside folks, Fish and Wildlife, and the person that makes the beaver baffles. So my hope is to distribute it in a couple of different ways. One, maybe I'll try to get it back on PBS again. There's also the Media Factory, which is the local public access, which also distributes throughout the state. So I'm hopefully for that. Some film festivals, and then maybe like I did with the other Williston films, we show it at 4th of July in the auditorium at Williston Central School, which seemed to be a good way of getting a lot of people looking at it.
Mhm.
Does anybody have any questions?
Thanks, Jim. Kim, is your hand raised or is that an old hand?
It's an old hand. I will lower it now.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for checking.
I think I see Terry then.
Hi, so I'm Terry, and I'm a beaver believer.
That's good.
I don't know, that's a
You got
12
beaver
step,
fever, right?
beaver believer. I don't know if it's a 12-step program, but that's how you start out with it. But anyway, so you know, I've been pretty interested in the beavers too, in town and on the Allen Brook, and I went out to look at the beaver dam that was out near the walkway a little while ago, and saw that how they built it up and how it wouldn't spilled over. And so I told a friend about the beaver dam, Mary Holland, who's a naturalist. She wrote Naturally Curious. It's a book that kind of goes by the month. So she went out there and looked at it, and she was fascinated. She was just amazed at how much they'd built it out. And she went back in there and found their lodge and did a little digging around. So, but yeah, so they are active out there, and I'm sure all the way through the Allen Brook, I'm sure they're, you know, pretty active. But I would love to see something like that to, you know, document that. And
Excellent. So one thing that would be great is finding people to interview. And I have a list of people that are on this committee. So if people are interested, and I'd like to give you my contact information, and I can also send it to Simon, and he can maybe send it out to everybody. So it's greenmountainvideo@gmail.com. So then it's fairly easy. It's all spelled out. So it's just it's greenmountainvideo@gmail.com. And then a phone number is 802-318-6728. And like I said, I'll send this out to Simon, and maybe he can distribute it. And maybe I can get a list of names and phone numbers and emails, and maybe we could start scheduling some things. And I'll have like a list of questions that I'm compiling and sort of getting out an outline of how I want the film to go.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Reed.
Yeah, Jim, I'm super excited about this. I've been telling the commission and guiltily not doing anything about it really due to other time constraints, but I've been really wanting to be able to show off Allen Brook because we only get to see it from certain crossing points. And we really don't want people like walking down through the floodplain because it's a pretty sensitive area. So seeing the footage that you all were able to share from the drone footage so far and that we were able to use at Wild at Williston was just like a super highlight to me. I'd always envisioned trying to get drone footage of the Allen Brook throughout the year from different seasons to see how it changes and to show people what's going on in these areas that they can't see from the bridges. So I'm really excited about that in general. The beavers is kind of a new development and it's a really interesting experiment in people's expectations because, you know, the people think that waterways stay the same. I think most people think waterways stay the same, but they're actually always adapting and changing. And it's just not something that happens fast enough for us to appreciate unless you study it. So I'm really interested in the topic of beavers and the relationship between humans and beavers in the Allen Brook, but also in the relationship between the beavers and the watershed and how it's changing the environment. So I just think it's all around a really interesting and impactful topic to do film on. So I'm really excited about that. I will take the contact information and connect you with a few people. Names that come to mind, my father, Chapin Kaner, he recently went and visited another place. I can't remember if it's Jericho or Underhill. There's a farm that has flooding impacts from beaver activity, and rather than trying to get the beavers to go away, they're like growing rice and other things in the floodplains. Like there's really cool interactions going on. So he went and visited that to see more about it, and he may have some interesting things to share. I think there are some good naturalists in Williston that would be interesting to interview as well. And oh yeah, so I think in addition to those other outlets you're talking about, I think it would be wonderful to have student showings in the schools.
Sure.
So you mentioned having a show on 4th of July for the broader public, but I'm sure that there, so the Four Winds program that teaches science in the younger grades in the schools, they might be an interesting connection. And we can also, I can get you connected with a contact there. There's just, I think students would be really, really interested in this. I also don't know about the CBU audience. It's not in Williston, but obviously a lot of Williston students there. So yeah, I'm gonna be thinking about different contacts for you, but I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, oh, I think the thing is, I don't want it to, though it's gonna be Williston focused because that's where the beavers are and that's where I live and everything. But I think people's understanding of what the beavers are all about, how they are a keystone species, and I think people fully understand how important they are. And some people look at them as a nuisance, but they don't realize what they're doing and why they're doing it and what the long-term benefits are. And I think, so I want to get that information out. And that's what I think is really my goal in the long term.
Jim, how long is your video expected? How long are you expecting the film to be? 10 minutes or half hour?
Around 26 at the most. I'll sort of get a feel how long the story can be, but that's my goal. I mean, I don't think it's going to be any longer than that. It won't be any longer than that. It might be shorter, but my goal is 26 minutes. And the reason for that, for a lot of broadcasts, that's the time that they prefer.
Of course.
So,
do you have fun? Oh, sorry. Is it okay to go, Dave?
I don't see anyone else with their hand raised.
Jim, do you have, do you have any other asks other than just contacts from us? Do you have, like funding sources or grants or things that you're looking at for this work or anything like that?
No, I mean, I've been a filmmaker for over 40 years, so I have my own equipment, my own edit system, so I don't really need, I mean, it'd be nice to get some funding for it, but at this point, I wasn't really expecting that. But yes, if you have some sources, I'd be happy to look at them and chat with that. But at this time, I'm sort of doing this as a personal interest, and which I've done, like when I did the Williston, the last Williston video, not the first one, but the second one. I did that because I knew the town was having its 250th anniversary, and I went ahead and wanted to do that. I wound up getting some funding through the library for that one, actually, but that was sort of after the fact that I wanted to do it. But a recent film that I did, I got a lot of press and was distributed on a lot of PBS stations, not just in Vermont, but around the country, especially on the East Coast. There was one called Lake Effect, which is about blue-green algae and the possible link to ALS. But that one, me and my daughter, we co-produced it, and but our funding is just, we self-funded it. So I mean, because I own my own equipment, it's not really, because I'm not working with actors and having to pay actors and things like that. So the budgets don't need to be quite as high.
No egos to manage either.
Mhm.
No prima donnas. No egos to manage either. No prima donnas.
No. Except for the
Yeah.
beavers, they could be a little temperamental, from what I hear. They tend to
just
slap
asked-
you. They tend to slap when they don't like you around. They go to their trailer.
Yeah.
Go to the trailer.
Yeah, the reason I asked is just I know that there are grant funding sources for education stuff, and so we could be thinking about that if we know of any.
That would be excellent.
Yeah,
but
this is a topic right up in line with what this committee talks about on a every other week basis, Jim. So you're definitely hitting a sweet spot in terms of if you're looking for involvement from us. I appreciate reaching out for this opportunity to interview. I also think that when your film is done, we could also be a resource for getting it out into the community and showing it around town, school events and whatnot. Like, I think, this definitely is a sweet spot for all of us on this commission. We're happy to help.
Great. I appreciate everyone being behind it. That, like you said before, pro beaver or beaver believers. So, but I think we're also going to find some people aren't, or they just don't know exactly why, understand what beaver's role is necessarily. So I think that's the goal, is to sort of let everybody have a broader view of what's going on with the beavers.
Well, thanks for doing that.
You're welcome.
So that's really great. And I'm looking forward to seeing the footage too. That should be exciting.
Excellent. And like I said, if you have some resources as far as other people in interview, I mean, Gary, you work at the University of Vermont, is that correct?
Yes,
Um,
but
So,
there are,
yeah.
I mean, I think, there should be plenty of people to interview, I would think.
yeah.
Are you looking for ecologists or foresters or
Well, I have somebody from this, from actually Tyler Brown, who actually is from the Vermont Fish and Wildlife, who Simon consulted with originally when the beavers first appeared. So I've spoken to him on the phone, and he looks like he's interested to be interviewed. So, but I think maybe I know Gary works at the university, having the background about the environmental impacts, to have an expert on that would be wonderful. I know there's also a couple of naturalists in town. Chapin is one. I think Ms. Meyer is the other person.
Yeah, Laura's here in the room.
Yeah,
Laura.
Vermont Master Naturalist. I have a lot of names I can give you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So That's what we're looking for. Yeah.
I also don't know if it might be possible to get somebody from the Native American community. They may have a different take.
Mhm.
You may have contacts, Laura, a different take on
Yeah.
just the history of human interaction with beavers in this region.
Yeah, actually, that's what I was, part of what I was thinking of is, there's also how it's part of, the creation myth. Beavers. And there might be something from the Native American community that might, that perspective would be wonderful.
I'll
Okay.
just put in a
Yeah.
plug for my own, I'm as a former geologist and environmental scientist in my original schooling, I loved the hydrology of beaver dams, and it's such an interesting impact in geomorphology and how beaver dam that sort of is left untouched can have a huge impact on the rest of the hydrology in the region. Then it just kind of becomes part of the landscape. And then how it can sort of, as Reed was saying earlier, like change, you know, rivers change over time. I think that
Yep.
could be an especially, you know, someone who has some expertise in that to talk while showing that drone footage, because it's a very striking sort of visualization of how water flows. I think that could be a really very interesting component to it, in addition to all of the biological sciences that the beavers have.
Speaking of, since you mentioned the drone footage, Dave, we did film one more time in January. So when there was some snow on the ground, which actually covers a lot because it was a little icy too, so it doesn't look quite as wide. But Arnold Weatherhead, who's the friend of mine that has the drone, and he's another filmmaker that I'm a longtime friend. When he comes back from Florida, he's in Florida right now. In April, we'll go out again and get more footage. So
It's priceless. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it really shows the difference in very
Yeah.
dramatic ways that you really can't get from the ground. So just give you an update on that.
Cool.
All right.
All right. Anything else?
That's it from my end for right now.
Great. Stay in touch. Sounds like
I
an
will.
exciting project.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate letting me chat. Take
Thank
care.
Thank you.
Bye, Jim.
Bye-bye.
All right. I see that Eric has re-entered the room. I relinquish my delegation.
Thanks, Dave. You were doing great. I was happy to let you take it for the rest of the agenda.
Well, I think we're done. I don't know if there's anything left.
Is there anything else to cover? All right, for the record, I did look back and I apologize. I missed your email from February 1st. That was a complete surprise to me.
Oh my God.
Well, now you know.
All right, so if there's nothing else, then I guess we will.
Oh, I have one more thing I just remembered. And of course, I'm gonna forget the names and stuff. So I've been talking with Crystaline McSweeney, who runs the Community Justice Center. There's also a racial justice committee, or I can't remember the name, that she also helps lead. And I know a topic that we've been wanting to figure out how to approach is the role of equity and access to conserved space and things like that. So I've just been trying to have some background conversations with her just about, hey, like we'd like to get some cross-pollination so we can better understand how the work that we do could potentially impact community justice issues.
Do you want to invite her to our next meeting at 8 AM?
Well, I could.
Yeah.
She
Or she
has a lot of demands.
Okay.
I don't want to get into it, but yeah, she has a lot of demands on her time. So I was thinking it might be more feasible for me to go on behalf of the WCC to one of their meetings and start that conversation. If and I just wanted to see if that's something that the commission would like me to do in an official capacity. I was going to go anyway, just as me, but if that's something that the commission is interested in starting a conversation with with those groups about equity and social justice issues and how they're impacted by conservation work in town, then I would be happy to do it and kind of be there to say, you know, I'm here for the Conservation Commission to start a connection.
Mhm.
I think that might be more feasible for them. I know she would say yes to coming, but I know she would also be like, I don't know how I'm gonna add that to what I'm already doing.
Just the reason I suggested it, because next meeting we've got the VHCB coming. Let's talk about the 30 by 30 and how we get there.
Mm.
The
Oh.
HCB is,
Vermont Housing
Conservation
Conservation
Board.
Board.
Oh, great.
who's coming from that group?
Soraya Hightower,
Okay.
who is a current Burlington councillor, but I think is standing down. So it's talking about how we can get to 30 by 30 on a statewide goal and what it means to conserve land. But I think one of the things that they talk about is like equity in
Mhm.
conservation.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
just
yeah, we can do both. We can invite,
Yeah.
and maybe it's not her, maybe she
Yeah.
can delegate to somebody from those organizations. I see Terry's hand is up.
Oh, okay, so I just was asking, this is a new topic, so do you
Okay.
still chatting about this?
Well,
Okay.
well, how does the commission feel? Is this something that you're interested in, me representing us more formally and inviting a member from their group to come talk with us about it?
Sorry, I was looking through my email for Simon's February 1st emails. So what was the name of the group?
So there's the Community Justice Center, but then
Thank you.
there's a racial justice committee, or I can't remember the name of the group that is a little bit separate and focused on racial justice issues in Williston. And I think advises the town manager
Mhm.
on that. So I don't know a lot about it. I'm trying to figure it out, but that I think would be the group that I would go to.
I mean, my personal feeling is you don't necessarily need an official you're a member of the commission, Reed, obviously. And so,
Yeah.
if we don't have any business in front of that group, then I don't know that it needs to be like an official
Okay.
going on behalf of us. But I'd certainly be interested in hearing if there's any opportunities. But that's just my
Yeah,
take.
I'd be interested to see what they say.
Okay. I'll touch base with them and see whether they have interest in coming to one of our meetings. Sounds like the next one could be a potentially good one to talk about how we get to something like 30 by 30.
Yeah.
Which in Williston might be more like 30 by 50, but we'll figure that out.
Sounds good to me. Thanks for taking the time to do that.
Yeah. Thanks, Reed.
Terry?
So I was just wondering if Simon could give a quick update on the trail condition from after those two windstorms. I know he, Five Tree Hill had to be taken care of, and I know Catamount posted that there was quite a bit of damage out there, and they were looking for folks to kind of help clean up the trail as they go out. But yeah, Simon, how'd that go?
It went well. So Five Tree Hills, where most of the impacts happened, there was virtually nothing on Suckerbrook. I think there's that tree on Mud Pond Conservation Area, and I think Fellowship of the Wheel took care of a few at the Country Park. So I think the combination of the vast trail team, who cleared a lot of the small to medium trees for us, they can handle quite large trees actually, those guys, which is great. And then we contracted a logger to take in the larger trees, and also the trees that were sort of like tipped up, where it's less predictable what's going to happen when you cut them. So it's more important that those were dealt with by someone who knows what they're doing. But they took care of all of those last Wednesday, so the trails are in good condition now.
Did you say there were none at Suckerbrook side?
Just a couple of like very small trees.
There was one very large tree just before the first bridge. So in that lower section of trail that has lost its integrity and is now just leaning against another one. So just a heads up, I saw that maybe 2 months ago when I was over there. It's a large tree.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's imminently gonna fall. It was up against a pretty solid tree, but it's the kind of thing that eventually someday is gonna shake loose.
Mhm.
Speaking of trees falling, we got word that DPW is gonna cut the ash trees on Brennan Woods this week and next, so if you use this road as a shortcut, don't expect to get through the neighborhood quickly anytime in the next 2 weeks.
I saw some property owner saw that they had misidentified a few trees.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they marked them
Also-
as ash, but they were actually oak, some kind of an oak. So,
Oh, my
Oh, no.
goodness.
yeah, they
Oh.
were asking the land, people had marked trees to really go out and make sure that they were really, an oak.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just a plug for having an arborist. For-
yeah.
I-
I feel
was-
like that's so surprising given how distinctive ash bark is.
Right.
Yeah.
They're mostly green ash, right? They're a little harder to especially winter. I mean, it's,
Yeah,
but
if
still.
you can get to buds, they're pretty distinct too.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, I'll just shut up about
It's
this.
a front porch forum.
Well, it was just a DPW guy walking the street. I mean, I saw
I
it. It was just
I mean,
DP.
even the branch alignment is opposite for ash and not for most other trees. I mean,
Right.
maples and ash, but
Yeah. Anyway.
Gary, maybe you should, Kim, you guys should email Bruce. Offer
See,
up to double
I'll-
check
I'll-
their work.
that would go over well if I email Bruce, say, I'll be happy to teach you about something if you appear to need it.
The minutes don't need to reflect that.
Yeah. Hmm.
All right, anything else before we adjourn for today? Our next meeting will be February. 21st.
Yeah,
Okay, which will be Simon's last meeting, in case anyone's
Yes.
missing that whole conversation.
Since it's Simon's last meeting, is anybody interested in, bringing
Yes,
in-person
Oh, yeah.
things?
Yes.
I'll bring stuff in for that one.
Yes.
All right, Eric
yeah,
says he'll bring stuff in. If
Yeah,
folks
we
can
should-
be in person, that might be cool.
Yes.
I will try to be in person. Absolutely.
All right, well then, let's go ahead and adjourn for today. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good to see you.
Bye-bye.